If the world's oceans are dying, and we so desperately need them to survive, what can we do to help? Plant more coral. Welcome back. We're still on the island of Nusa Penida, and today we're helping the guides at Ecotourism on their mission to rebuild Indonesia's coral reefs. They've already replanted 96,000 corals, and with the help of interested volunteers like us, they can plant a whole heap more. We hope you'll join us and watch until the end. Give the video a thumbs up and share to show your support. And if you're in Bali anytime soon, then jump on the fast ferry and spend the day too.
This was our home for the week. Very funky, very, what would you call it?
Basic boho.
Basic, boho, sustainable. Cool lights though, very cool lights. And we actually slept really well. Surprisingly, all the little holes in the wall, the timber didn't let too much of the air out, so the aircon actually did a good job, and we had an amazing night's sleep and caught up on some much needed sleep that we've been missing with Naia the last couple of days. Today, we're gonna go snorkel and plant some coral. You're not interested, are you? Technically, we're gonna build some coral kind of lattices, some supports, and then we're gonna go out and link our coral to it so we'll grow new reefs. So we're doing a bit of sustainability coral planting today. You won't be snorkeling though, will you? Because she's a little bit young, but that's the plan for today.
So we're going to head out with Ecotourism. We're hopefully going to be replanting 70 corals each per person, which is amazing. They're a group that help manage all the waterways here in Bali. They replant mangroves, they replant coral, they help promote the local seaweed farmers as well. They do a whole heap of stuff. They go into schools, and we're going to pay to go on one of their tours today and help restore some of the coral, which is really exciting because we get a snorkeling trip in and we get to do some good. I'm bringing this little rugrat with us for the ride. Yeah, you're gonna come replant some coral? Yeah, I've been telling her that this is where turtles live, and she loves her turtle toys, so I'm sure she'll have no idea what we're doing, but at some point in a few years' time, she'll watch this video and think, wow, that was cool. So yeah, coral. Hey? Yes. Yes, it's a camera. I know. Mummy get it. Small distances, but long time in the car. I'd read that the roads used to be a lot worse, but they've gotten better. Is that true?
Better than they used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've come to the northeast side of Nusa Penida, to the base of Ecotourism. It's right here where they go out each day rebuilding the coral reef, piece by piece. Today we'll be spending a lot of time under the water, but first we need to understand what the hell coral is, why it's so important, and what us mere mortals can do to help. So skip ahead to the underwater stuff if you like, or stick around, as the stuff we learned today is really interesting. But first, some quick intros. This is Raphael, aka Raf. He runs the show here at Ecotourism. He also has his own NGO and has co-founded a bunch of reef rehabilitation programs. He's also a scientific diver and a qualified scuba instructor. A busy guy. And then there's Festi, marine conservationist and general coral hero. When she's not underwater, she's a science instructor and field coordinator, specialising in educating fisheries, schools, and interested people like us. Plus, she's a great babysitter. Alright, intro's over, let's dive straight in. We're sitting very nicely at class today. Coral class.
But they're animals.
Yeah, corals are not plants. What we learnt is they might look like plants, but they don't make their own food like plants do. They can't photosynthesize. Coral rely on algae, which are plant-like organisms, which live within the coral's tissues. They're tiny, microscopic. The algae produces the oxygen, removes waste, and supplies the organic products of photosynthesis that corals need to grow, thrive, and build up the reef. But it is a win-win for both coral and algae. In order for this to happen, the algae uses the coral's waste products for its photosynthesis. It's pretty cool.
You have algae producing oxygen. You have an animal producing CO2 using 70% energy from these algae. So some grow faster, some grow slower, some put more energy in defense, some put more energy in fast growth, and some don't even need algae. So for example, there's some very slow growing coral, and the oldest one that we know of is over 4,000 years old.
So you can see like this one, they just like have thin skeleton.
Yeah.
So they can just produce calcium carbonate. It's not too big, it's not too thick, so easy to grow. But like massive coral, the brain, the shape like the brain, like the rope, they have to produce like thick skeleton.
It's really where you put your energy. Some are, okay, I'll be a few 100-year-old colony, so they're just like one boulder, and some are just like, I just grow as fast as I can to outshape all the others. Not every coral that bleaches is dead afterwards. They have like a time span of 1 or 2 weeks where they could still get new zooxanthellae. At the end, if you do not change the water conditions, you will just be like a trap. To give you an understanding on how important coral reefs are, they are just taking 0.2% of the whole ocean floor, but they support 25 to 30% of all marine life. That's why we call them a biodiversity hotspot. The corals lay the foundation of the whole reef ecosystem. The coral provides structure, and the structure provides niches, and the niches provide biodiversity. So fish, for example, eat on the polyp itself, or they also produce saliva, which a lot of the fish like to eat, but also the structure itself gives fish many attractive ecosystems. For example, shade on a hot day with a lot of light, or protection from the currents, or a place to put their egg. No corals, no fish. And then tourism and food source. Most of the tourists here come for diving. Big income to have healthy reefs. And then there's medicine and all these kind of new discoveries that we make.
Raf said that reefs reduce the average wave height by
To 97%, and the wave energy to 86 or something.
That's huge and awesome, meaning coastal villages like this one are more protected against wild weather.
Corals themselves, it's really difficult. Big debate going on. The thing is, there's carbon stored in. But the problem is, the polyp produces also carbon. How much does it produce? How much does it release? How much does the algae produce on oxygen? What happens with the algae when it goes out? Breeding algae that will then partially go into the deep and be stored.
So corals are not a carbon sink, or at least the jury's out for now. The reef we're working on today is part of the Coral Triangle, known by people in the industry as the Amazon of the ocean, which I'll admit I didn't know much about before coming today. But in actual fact, there's tons more species of coral here than in the Great Barrier Reef. There's over 605 species of coral here, when compared to the Great Barrier Reef, there's less than 500. And to give you some more quotes, the Coral Triangle has more than 75% of the world's coral species, and the area itself contains more than 30% of all of the world's coral reefs. Plus, we're learning that Nusa Penida is considered a source reef. So the waters here are a meeting point of two ocean currents, bringing with it tons of nutrients and a biodiverse marine ecosystem, which makes for not only healthy coral, but climate resilient coral due to the frequent temperature changes brought on by the two ocean currents.
And when they spawn, they will just spread this very climate resilient genes to very low disturbance.
So, the more coral that grows around Nusa Penida, the better for the entire coral triangle. And as Raf puts it, more coral, more fish.
Maybe if it was just climate change, they could still withstand. Maybe if it was just pollution and run-ins, reefs could still exist. Maybe if it would just be fisheries, they could still make a living. As it's now, with all the multitude of stressors, with all the tourism and pollution and climate change, ocean acidification, all the higher water temperatures, now like the trends are very bad. So 70% of the Great Barrier Reef was severely affected just this year by the global bleaching event. Florida had terrible year. I had colleagues on the Maldives who sent me pictures of all their corals bleached. Also French Polynesia, a lot of bleaching. You can just hope that after the bleaching they will come back and they will be better adapted, but many of them do not.
And we witnessed it firsthand today. Here's one boat that dropped an anchor right on top of the reef. And here's Raf needing to explain to someone why he shouldn't just walk on the coral. Then I asked if the dive companies help support their efforts, given they rely on healthy coral for their business to even exist. And this was his response.
No.
They're just hoping someone else will manage it and then their business can continue.
Yeah, so they just try to kind of help just enough to post a picture. But
Yeah.
the people are mostly not really into conservation. They just want to attract more guests while looking environmentally conscious. And that's something NGOs need to be aware that they will kind of lose their credibility if they give away themselves to cheap.
We're learning today that the island of Nusa Penida has multiple economy-driving sectors that it needs to balance and balance carefully. Until 2016, when tourists started coming to the island, the locals relied predominantly on farming seaweed for their livelihood. But
Seaweed cannot grow because tourism. So when the tourism come to Nusa Penida, they bring like wood, they bring like petrol and etc. And then seaweed cannot grow because the water quality is not like before. Seaweed are a little bit tricky than coral. And the coral and seaweed, they cannot grow together. They will fight. And then seaweed cannot grow good. And then also the coral will die.
the coral and the island's beautiful beaches and natural swimming holes attracts tourists. But too many tourists increases ocean pollution, which reduces the amount of seaweed farming and affects the coral. It's a delicate balance. Now, if you've watched our other Nusa Penida videos, you'll know we've been out to the reef. And you could argue that we are also part of the problem. As we live nomadically and explore special places like this, our aim is always to do so responsibly and to share these practices with you. But if you want to jump on the keyboard anyway, feel free. More comments lets YouTube know people are watching, and when we're making videos like this, that's not a bad thing. Learning over, it's time to harvest coral.
So we're going to go out and harvest coral. Naia's going to stay here. Hey, have a little play date.
Yeah, you are.
Mummy and Daddy get to snorkel together under the water, Naia. Until you're big enough, hey?
So these ones we tried to find broken off by boats or people. And these ones we take from our nursery and also try to find some corals of opportunity inside our nursery.
Within a few meters of the shoreline is the Ecotourism Coral Nursery, aka where they plant new coral, and the location where we would be harvesting coral fragments from. we're looking for 2 species of fast-growing coral today. Montipora, which I think looks a little bit like an oyster mushroom, and Aquapora. The coral absolutely must already be detached from the reef and must contain a large enough section of healthy coral that we could replant later. Raph was always close by to advise us if the coral fragments we were finding on the ocean floor were the correct species, and if so, gave us the green light. As we swam around, it was inspiring to see just how healthy the coral was that had been replanted, and how big it had grown already. Impressive, huh? Before grabbing lunch, we collected seawater and submerged our coral fragments to make sure they were as healthy as possible until we came back later to replant them. A pretty good haul. Lunch was an unexpected treat. I must admit I hadn't read the day's full inclusions, but lunch is provided. Nice. Freshly cooked vegetarian and meat options from the cafe upstairs. It was delicious. Alright, back to work. If you can call spending a day with this view work, our next job was to prepare the ropes that we would attach our harvested coral fragments to. We'll be planting it all in the ocean in a linear pattern, just like this, a little later.
20 to 30 centimeters, 7, 8, 9, 10. Spread out maybe a hand. Yeah. And then you just open it.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
And then we have a mark. Just will you open it?
Yeah. That's as close as you're getting.
For the Montipora, but they're super easy to break, so they break any direction.
Oh yeah.
Just about to crack the coral, make it into smaller fragments so we can plant it on the ropes or in the water. Naia's now awake, so we're going to keep trying to take coral while she chills on the floor. Hopefully she chills on the floor. We finished off our coral and then it was time for a quick rope tying lesson before we jump back in the ocean.
It's a glove hitch. We go over the rope. We apply some tension and we lock it. We go below it on the right, above it to the left, and then we go through the hole that just created.
When we headed back out to the water, it was low tide, meaning no more snorkeling. But it did mean it was a lot easier to tie the corals onto the ropes, because as you can see, it required a decent amount of strength to pull the ropes taut and make sure that they could withstand the ocean's current over time. Plus, it meant that Naia was able to join us and have a splash around in the water too. With the last rope attached, it was time to admire the team's efforts. It's looking good. And having explored the coral nursery this morning, it was especially cool to know that in the not too distant future, fish would be back. In a little while longer, our young nursery would look like this.
You don't want to go, do you? I think she's had the best time. Babysitting, swimming, playing with ropes, learning to plant coral. Yeah, we're building turtle homes. Homes for turtles. Yeah, we are.
Ecotourism don't get much/any government support. Tourists taking part in the workshops is how they're funded. RAF's job is then to scale this by sourcing independent funding where possible. So if you're coming to Nusa Penida, you know I'm going to say it, spend a day with these guys, have an epic snorkel, learn something new, and yes, as you can see with Naia coming, they're totally family friendly. I know, sweetie, we've popped a flat tire. It's okay. Okay, the driver and Duncan are lifting up the car and putting on a spare.
How would you shower so beautiful?
I think we're about half an hour away from home. Just climbed up the hills and there's potholes everywhere. Okay. I know, you were fast asleep, weren't you, darling? The road's here are gnarly. Luckily it's just the one and we've got one spare. I know. This one's due asleep.
Just change the tyre. Back, ready to go. Although it's the low mileage spare tyre, so probably not hit any more potholes. How do you say that in Balinese? Just gotten back.
Yeah.
Finally, after having to change the car tyre, which was quite fun actually. I kind of enjoyed it. It was quite cool to get your hands dirty. The only thing was the lingering fear that the spare tire might not have any air in it, and it was one of those like limp tires, so it was like way thinner than the other tire. And I'm going, there's a lot of potholes and a lot of other stuff on the way back to where we are, a lot of hills. So I was like, God, I hope this gets us back and then gets our driver back to wherever he's staying. But epic day with the corals.
Epic.
Planting them, learning about them, and seeing firsthand some of the impacts on them, like boats that have just beached themselves trying to get back in, lots of tourist boats, tourists walking on the corals and so on, even in the conservation area we were in. That was pretty frustrating when you're planting coral to see people walking on it.
And undoing all the hard work.
Yeah, and then ignoring the instructor who was telling him he shouldn't be on it. Quite frustrating, that side of it. But it was kind of, from our side, it was good to see firsthand the impacts. But we learned a lot. Not going to lie, we're pretty shattered. Finally back in our room. Chat to you tomorrow.
Good
Night.
Coral planting was sick. The whole day was meaningful. It was rewarding. It took 6 hours out of our day. I am so pleased we did it. I would love to come back in a few years' time and swim, snorkel around the coral that we've planted, and hopefully it's thriving. Raphael, the whole team are gorgeous people. They're so friendly. We were a little bit nervous about going because we have Naia, and I had no idea what we would be doing with her when we were in the water. I assumed we'd be taking it in turns. They were so accommodating, so warm. I think they loved looking after Naia. It made us feel very welcome. So thank you if you're watching this, guys. What we didn't show you is we actually stayed behind for a community event that they were running with local conservation groups. There's heaps on the island. There's not just ecotourism, but there's quite a few that look after the reef and other parts of the island. And you realise that this island is full of passionate locals and also travellers who fall in love with the place, who just want to lend a hand and who just want to do good for the planet. If you would like to see more videos like this one, please let us know, because we would love to explore more of the world and be finding awesome people like these guys who are doing great work and share their stories and more positivity. If you would like more videos like this, or you want to just see us hiking and getting shots of ferns and swimming, maybe we can combine the two together. Beautiful scenery, beautiful people, beautiful work. It's pretty cool. And please share the video. It would mean a lot to us if there is anyone you think would like to watch it. And if not, then give it a like and leave us a comment, because YouTube needs to know how much good work has been done here. And I want them to know about it. I want them to share it with everyone so more people can find out. So yeah.